Page 108. That, friends, that is Kufchet. Here on Masechet Zevachim, making fantastic progress over here. Nothing like a bit of early morning shopping, friends, and say over a few words within regards to the daily Gemara, daily Talmud. We all learn this across the world as a community. There's probably many hundreds of people, educators out there teaching, and many groups of people. So we are very fortunate to be part of like such a big community. All Am Yisrael, all Yehudim learning together Torah and to inspire and to educate. And it's actually, we were at the roundabout, I think it was a few months ago, back in Jerusalem, of Rav Shapiro, who started the Daf Yomi series, which I very much recommend everyone to look back on that specific video. But friends, 1108 today, and we're only, I think it's only very shortly, we're going to have the Grand Siyum, which is actually a breath of fresh air, because we didn't do a Siyum in nearly 4 months, because our other tractates we did previously were obviously of a much shorter caliber, if you friends can actually recollect. Now it's actually interesting, it's packed. This page is famous stuff with a lot of content inside of it, so I wanted to bring out a couple of key points over here in today's page. Now we're going to see there's a case today of 2 altars. Actually, this is given over by Rabbi Mendel Weinbach Zechet Tzadik Livracha. He actually illustrates that the Torah prohibited offering korbanot, sacrifices, outside the temple, outside the Bet HaMikdash, and one who does so is punished with a severe punishment of the name karet. This, what is that, friends? That's extirpation, let's just say. My English vocabulary is not the best in the world, but that's what it is translated here as. Now, the question is, must the platform upon which such a korban, a sacrifice, is offered be built specifically for an altar, for a mizbeach, or can it be any simple rock for one to be guilty of this, let's just say, serious avera, this serious transgression, a sin? Now, a great rabbi named Rabbi Yossi, he contends that it must be built as an altar, and bases his opinion over here on what is written about Noach at the time period following the deluge. Remember, the Parshat Noach is the second parsha in the book of Bereshit, which we learned about very much. It's one of the longest parashot in the Torah, and it gives an entire synopsis of what actually goes on in that point in time. Now, he actually doesn't say that. And he says over here, and Noach built an altar to God and offered burned sacrifices on the altar. Very much we learned about this in Parshat Noach, chapter 8, verse number 20 over there, friends. Now, this indicates that even outside the sanctuary, a korban, an offering, is considered a sacrifice only if an altar was built on it. So over here, that specific point of land, that's a karka over there, you need over there an altar to be on side there. Now, Rabbi Shimon is going to weigh in, Rabbi Simon, as we could say in English. He actually contends that even a rock is enough, and he bases himself on the offering made by Manoach, if we cast someone back to the father of Shimshon. Remember, we learned about Samson and Delilah, that famous story all of us will know out there. All the Jewish people and non-Jewish people, I'm sure, will be very familiar with this specific story of Manoach over there. And that actually, I think, is in the book of Shoftim, the book of Judges, which I was telling my son some of those stories actually quite recently. So let's continue. Oh, yes, that's very interesting. And it says over here that to illustrate the story of Manoach, and Manoach took the kid goat and the meal offering and offered it upon the rock. This is very much featured in chapter 13 in verse number 19. Now, his source is, however, rejected by Rabbi Yossi, who argues that Manoach was acting in, let's say, extra pious, extra halachic, let's say, fashion over here. We went beyond the law within regards to that, which was mandated for that occasion. He didn't have to go so far over there. Now, our Talmud, our Gemara over here, this page, does not elucidate as to who gave Manoach permission to act in this way. Now, if we look at the chapter dealing with Manoach's korban, his sacrifice, it reveals that the angel, the malach, who appeared to him and his wife, rejected his offer of a meal from a kid goat and instructed him instead to offer it as a sacrifice to God, which we very much see, friends, in chapter 13, verse number 16. Over there's so much going on actually in these pages of the Gemara today. It's really action-packed. I want to share over another thing, which the Osamech website, just to elaborate a bit more within regards to that. We know the Torah actually prohibited offering sacrifices outside, not just the Bet HaMikdash, which we just mentioned before, also the Mishkan, we've spoken about that, and warned that one guilty of doing so will be liable for this punishment over here. Now, I didn't add on, but this pasuk of the karet itself is actually featured very much in chapter 17, verse number 19, in the book of Vayikra. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is most likely in the Parshat, I think Kedoshim, if I'm not mistaken, but I have to double check on that. It could be Parshat Matzorah. And this is why this question arises as to whether this punishment is due only if he offers such a sacrifice upon an altar, or if he puts the sacrifice on a single rock or stone, which we were talking about before. So, just to clarify a bit, Rabbi Yossi, it is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon that even offering a sacrifice on a single rock constitutes a sacrificial act for which one is considered guilty if he performs it outside the place which God had designated. And as we said before, the support for this was Manoach, which we talked about before, the father of Shimshon. He happened to be. And the story of that, just to give you the context of what happened, he was informed by a mysterious stranger that his long barren wife would give birth to a son, so that obviously he would take the kid's goat and place it on the rock as sacrifice. And we spoke about how Rabbi Yossi would reject this proof, because obviously Manoach actually went beyond the law, letter of the law, with regards to this, and he was actually acting in a heavenly command, which, let's just say, empowered him to offer the sacrifice in an irregular manner. You could also say over here, the very fact that he was able to offer such a sacrifice outside the Mishkan sanctuary in Shiloh obviously is a proof that he was permitted to act outside the regular rules because of the heavenly command. So it wasn't really the command over there every single point in time. So it's actually interesting. Just to add on a bit more with regards to the story, I very much recommend everyone to have a seder, to have a specific Brut every single day, and learn about the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, the various stories, and look at the various different excellent commentaries out there within regards to this, because it's just important within regards to this. Because of the heavenly command over here. But there's a couple of questions now from this entire scenario that we painted already today with regards to Manoah. Where do we find such a command which can be used only by God or one of his messengers? That's another question that arises out from this scenario. So now the answer is given. Robert Mendel Weinbach will actually illustrate over here. The answer lies in the words of that mysterious stranger, who was obviously an angel, who Manoach assumed, go be a human prophet, whom he wished to honor with a feast on a kid goat he prepared to slaughter. Now the pasuk says, "I shall not eat your food," said the stranger, who was actually obviously the malach, the heavenly angel over it. "But if you wish to offer it as an olah sacrifice to God, one may do so." That's actually in verse 16 over there. Now it was only after that stranger, wondrously brought fire forth from the rock to consume this sacrifice, friends, and then departed to heaven in the resulting flames, did Manoach realize that the stranger he assumed to be a prophet was indeed an angel. So what time context, there's a lot of mafarshim on this. I very, very much recommend everyone to look into that, friends. We're on page 108. Just to give you a sneak preview, what are we talking about in this week's pages? Yesterday, we spoke about yesterday in page 107, if you recall, about which sacrifices outside the Beit HaMikdash are, let's say, punishable by karet. That's how we started up, and we looked into if such sacrifices are not offered on an altar, and when such a sacrifice is a joint effort of two. Can you actually do this or not? Can someone partner up in various scenarios, and within regards to giving a joint sacrifice? If the animal sacrifice outside was already disqualified for sacrifice in the Beit HaMikdash, that's another topic that we've grappled with. And when only a part of a sacrificial animal is offered, that's something we are going to speak about this week. We're going to talk about and grapple with meal offerings outside the temple, outside the Beit HaMikdash, blood application and water libation outside the temple, outside the Beit HaMikdash also. That's something we'll talk with. We're going to discuss about the source for water libation on Sukkot. Remember, on Sukkot, very much there's a Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the most joyous of festivals that will come on all throughout Chol HaMoed. Sukkot obviously being one of the three pilgrimage festivals, also known as the Shalosh Regalim. That's what we're talking about. You know, they say that the libation offering, the water drawing, was one of the most joyous moments of the year, and the Talmud very much, especially in the fifth parak of Masechet Sukkah, will actually advocate and speak about that. We will speak about slaughtering a sacrificial bird and offering it outside. Can you do this or not? What's the parameters if you are allowed to do it? The lost sin offering. There's such a thing called the lost sin offering. We're going to see that in this week's Daf Yomi classes. the history of the sanctuaries. It's always good to get a historical lesson. I very much recommend. There's a lot of books out there which have diagrams about the Bet HaMikdash, the Mishkan, the various different utensils part of it, let's just say different altars, the different shapes that was in, and they also give very much pictures of the high priest and the Kohanim, what they're actually wearing when they're performing the avodat inside the Bet HaMikdash, the avodah, respectively. And one thing we're also going to deal with, grapple with this week, is the impact of the Great Deluge, which that I think we're referring over here, within regards to the famous story of Noah, and what actually happened in that entire episode in the book of Bereshit. So it's absolutely phenomenal, friends, as every single day we are doing a daily tidbit of the Daf Yomi, and it's always a great privilege to do about that. We've already done on this series 107 pages, which is an absolutely phenomenal achievement over here, as we are really trying to grapple with the great insights. We were very, very fortunate in the previous page to actually give over the Daf Yomi tidbit inside the Kotel, if you recollect. So I recommend everyone, I'm going to upload this on various other channels today, where we talked all about the Bet HaMikdash over here. We actually spoke about, inside the previous page, about how the Torah prohibited offering sacrifice outside the sanctuary that was designated. And we started off this entire topic, let's just say, within regards to karet, within regards to it. And we actually spoke about in yesterday's page that before the Mishkan was established in the Midbar, inside the wilderness, a year after obviously the exodus of Egypt, it was allowed at that point in time to offer certain korbanot on bamot, various different altars. And we spoke about the remaining 39 years inside the wilderness, how it was forbidden to offer sacrifices outside the Mishkan. And we spoke about how upon entering the land of Israel, the Mishkan was established in Gilgal, where it stood for 14 years, while the tribes of Israel conquered and divided the land. During this period, the ban on the bamot was suspended. From there, let's say the Mishkan was transferred to Shiloh, where we're talking all about the stone at that point in time, if it's allowed in today's page, where the stone will actually replace the boards, and let's say hitherto had been the walls of the sanctuary. And we spoke about how the 369 years in Shiloh, the ban of the bamot once again was in effect at that stage in time. And we also grappled with the destruction of Shiloh, what actually happened at that point in time, that the Mishkan was moved then to Nov eventually, and then to Givon, another area, and the ban of the bamot was once again suspended during the 57 years in these two locations. We also spoke about how the construction of the Bet HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, we said that there was a rule established that nowhere else would be a sanctuary be built for offering sacrifices, and obviously these would be banned over there. That's what we spoke about. And we concluded in yesterday's page of the Gemara, friends, about the question, what about, let's say, in modern day, when there's not obviously the Bet HaMikdash, obviously we don't have the Holy Temple, unfortunately, at the moment. We pray for it every single minute, and Bezrat Hashem, it's going to come immediately, but we don't have it still. If one offers a sacrifice on a private altar, we asked yesterday, is he considered in violation of the Torah's prohibition, and is that ban applicable only when a sanctuary exists, as we spoke about? And then we spoke how Rav Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, also popularly known as Reish Lakish, dispute this specific issue over here. The view of Rabbi Yochanan, which is, I think, one that the halacha accepts, the Jewish law accepts, is that he is guilty of offering a korban outside the sanctuary, even though the sanctuary over here, he's going to be guilty over here, even though the sanctuary is not functioning. And his reason over there, that we said in the Kotel yesterday, is that the original sanctity invested in the site of the Bet HaMikdash, the Kedusha Rishona, as it's also known as, is in effect forever. And as far as the site is concerned, sacrifices could be offered that even though there is no Bet HaMikdash over here, offering as sacrifices anywhere else is therefore considered transgression of this prohibition. That's what we talked about over here, friends. Now, friends, anyone, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe now and join our community. We've already recorded, friends, about 1,100 videos here on the daily page of Daf Yomi to give kickstart everyone's day over here, to pump people with a bit of Talmud, a bit of daily learning page. Always a fantastic feeling over here. Just recording this, friends, from the main shopping area in Ramat Bet Shemesh Aleph. So wishing you all a fabulous day, and take care, and very well for everyone, and just a lot of blessings for all of Am Yisrael. Take care, and Shabbat Tov and Brach.